Shri Shri Ras Viharini Jukije, Day 83, in the readings by Varja Kishori Seva Trust of Shri Hari Raji, 41 Bari Shiksha Patra. Commencing today with letter 33, verses 7, 8 and 9. And then we will continue to letter 34, verses 1 to 4. Therefore, depend on those accomplished devotees who are surrendered to Sri Acharyaji. They are always striving to understand the purport of his books, Sri Subodhaniji and Nibandha, etc. Never have bad association and relish the opportunity to meet with other devotees. They are clever in their service, know how to avoid taking refuge in others, constantly crave freedom from the worst faults like lust and envy, etc. Keep company with such devotees. Tika. Surrender to the lotus feet of Sri Acharyaji and to those accomplished devotees who have done so. This surrender will be perfected when you gain knowledge of the inner meaning of the main text of the Path of Grace, written by Sri Acharyaji and Sri Gosaiji, such as the Sri Subodhaniji, Nibandha, Vidwanamandan, Tippaniji, and Sri Sarvottamji. In Sri Sarvottamji, Sri Gosaiji has stated, without a doubt, the recitation of this text will bring you the divine reward of tasting the nectar of Sri Krishna's lips. Recitation of such treatises is very necessary, because by this means you will gain clear intelligence, humility, and perfect surrender. So now, give up bad company and strive to keep good, healthy association. In the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Sonakji states, even a little bit of association with the Lord's devotees is superior to heaven or liberation. How can mortal pleasures compare to it? Know then that there is no pleasure superior to that of good association, the company of devotees, and everything can be perfected through it. Always be permanently engaged in serving Sri Krishna, because according to the path of grace, the highest reward is to be fully occupied in serving him, and there is nothing equal to it. In the 9th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord tells the sage Durvasa, through serving me, my devotees gain direct perception of my form, and they have no wish at all to attain the 4 types of liberation, such as residing in my own realm, Salokya. For they are fully satisfied and their fate is complete. They do not want to receive any other impermanent reward. Such accomplished devotees are established in their service to me and desire no other reward. So like them, be totally engaged in serving me, never resort to any other. If you resort even minutely to any other god or goddess for anything, like wealth, etc., your divine reward will be completely destroyed. Be very aware of the implications of taking refuge in any other and avoid it. Give up lust and greed, because when you are occupied with selfish, lusty action, your heart cannot accommodate the Lord. He will move away from it, and then it will become filled with worldly attachment. Do not contemplate sinful or meritorious activity, because thoughts are self-centered. Such thoughts are self-centered. The Lord does not enter the heart that is filled with lust and greed. Give them up, and then you receive the perfect reward of humility. Thus concludes letter 33. Letter 34, description of 2 types of devotion. Translator's introduction. Letter 34 defines many of the essential principles of the path of grace and reiterates that the path is followed through humility and dedication to Sri Acharyaji's lotus feet. Humility is attained through service to the Lord, good association, and knowledge of Sri Acharyaji's teachings. Index. The index and the introduction will be given separately. Let's pass to. The 34th letter teaches us that the true recipients of our service should be the Lord Sri Krishna. This service itself is our reward. Through devotion to his lotus feet, the Lord himself is attained, whilst through devotion to his lotus feet, with due consideration to one's righteous path and actions, one attains the Lord replete with virtue. This means to say that devotion to his feet brings the reward of absorption into his form, whilst devotion to his lotus face is rewarded with the taste of the nectar of his lips. In this way, the letter instructs you about the true nature of devotion within the path of grace, and also the path of particular practices, as well as the condition called Sarvatma Bhav. Or experience the Lord everywhere and in everything. In the scriptural text explaining the use of specific Explaining the use of specific prayers and chants, it is taught that no aims can be fulfilled without realization of the seed or inner essence of such chants and prayers. In the same way, it is to be known here that nothing can come to perfection in this path of grace without humility. Grasping the inner purport of the path of grace is only possible with the grace of the lotus feet of Sri Acharyaji, and this letter shows how to take their refuge. The previous letter told us that humility is reached through good association and service. This letter specifies service of his lotus face as being superior, and also describes devotion to his lotus feet. The most direct form of service is devotion to his lotus face, by which Sri Krishna himself is attained. He is always to be served. Sri Hariraji now elucidates that in the path of grace, Sri Krishna is to be served. In his Chatushloki Treatise, Sri Acharyaji has written, "Our one and only true path and duty is to serve Sri Krishna, the Lord of Braj, with all the love in our hearts." For devotees on the path of grace, this is the singular righteous activity, Sri Krishna's service. At no time is there any other practice. Through such service, the fruit of devotion within the path of grace will automatically result. Love and attachment to his lotus feet is perfected through such direct service of his form, which entails seeing him, touching him, and experiencing his total comfort. Serving his form is thus his direct experience, that is, devotion to his lotus face, and it is most exalted. Devotional service to verse 2, devotional service to the Lord's lotus feet that embodies service to the form of dutiful righteousness doubtless leads to the attainment of that Lord defined as that very form of righteousness. Devotion to the Lord's lotus feet is service to the form of Godhead, which has been performed from time immemorial by Brahma, Shiva, Narad, Sanaka, and others, and it is done with adherence to lawful limitations and religious duty. Devotion of this kind, which is done with such due consideration to one's correct and proper path, leads no doubt to the Lord. One may ask here, it has been stated that devotion to the Lord's lotus face and devotion to his lotus feet both lead to him alone, so it seems that they are equal. Why then has Sri Acharyaji defined devotion to his lotus face as a superior path? The next verse answers this question. Verse 3. Devotion to the Lord's lotus feet leads to liberation of absorption into him, but not to experiencing the nectar of his lips, which is great grace and attained through devotion to his lotus face. There is a marked difference between the fruits of grace-filled devotion to his lotus face, and lawful devotion to his lotus feet. From lawful devotion to his lotus feet, one attains the liberation of being perfectly yoked to him, but cannot taste the nectar of his lips. From devotion to his lotus face, one attains his direct service and experiences the bliss of his manifest form. Therefore, in the path of grace, devotion to his lotus face is deemed the highest type of devotion, and devotion to his lotus feet the limited righteous path. There is a vast difference between them, and so they will be explained here separately. Verse 4. This devotion, the perfect fruit of which is experience of the nectar of his lips, which is so craved after, can only be attained through the reciprocation of grace and from the blessing of Sri Acharyaji, who is the form of his lotus face. Tika. To verse 4. Tika 4. The kind of devotion which leads to the attainment of the Lord's lip nectar is the devotion of his lotus face, as it is within the path of grace. Sri Acharyaji's form is that of Sri Krishna's lotus face, therefore this type of devotion is granted by Sri Acharyaji's grace. Devotion to Sri Krishna's lotus face is the domain of Sri Swaminiji, and Sri Acharyaji reveals this type of grace-filled devotion in her mood of separation from him. For this reason, it is through the blessings of Sri Acharyaji that the gift of this type of devotion is given and can only be perfected in this way. So we will pause our reading for today here. Tomorrow we will continue in letter 34, verse 5. Aaj ke aanand ki jai ho, sab Vaishnavon ko sadar, sanand sadenya. Jai Shri Krishna, Shri Acharya Ji ki jai, Shri Hari Rai Ji ki jai, Sab Vaishnavan ko jai jai, Shri Radhe.